Hello everyone, this is Girish Manmadkar from VMware Cloud Provider Program, CSP, as product management. My colleague will join me soon. I'm going to talk about optimize VMware Cloud Foundations for the cloud providers or cloud solution provider to make sure that they are able to optimize their CapEx and OpEx. So what's the agenda looks like? Definitely looking at VCF has two architectures. One is a consolidated architecture and another one is a standard architecture. So we wanted to focus on the minimum portion of it. So we'll just focus on consolidated architecture. What are the business advantages that you as a cloud provider will have if you look at this particular option? What are the various recommendations and how do we make it productionalize this particular deployment for your customers? At the same time, when we talk about it, we want to make sure that you as a provider understands what are the things are in scope and things are out of scope from a deployment perspective. And again, this is like a technical guidance. We want to make sure that use this information to run in non-production, but if you want to run production workloads on this architecture, you have some small process to go through an approval so that when it becomes a support issue, you have a VMware GSS supporting your environment without any issues. With that said, I think let us have a look. The architecture looks like typically we start with 4 nodes, which becomes sometimes too much for a smaller customer or mid-market customer. So we want to start with a smaller footprint, which is minimum 3 node. Since it's a vSAN, we want to make sure that you are able to start with the 3 node clusters kind of configurations. Then on top of that, you are able to deploy various components which are optional if you want to deploy, usage meter, cloud director, and login site, which are basically optional components. But again, depending on the server configuration, compute capacity, as well as available memory at your hand for running the customer workloads, will determine that if you have those enough capacity to run these additional components with the 3 node configurations. And available resources will be utilized in terms of allocating a resource pool for customer workloads. So within 3 host configurations, you are managing the environment as a management cluster with vCenter, NSX, and vSAN, and control managed by SDDC manager, which will be utilized for performing a lot of lifecycle automation options or workflows. The business advantages, definitely it brings a lot of efficiencies in terms of OpEx, eliminate waste, the resources are utilized appropriately for your running customer workloads and also cost to the customer. Also, it gives you an ability to use out-of-the-box automation. What that automation is basically giving you an ability to perform lifecycle management of the entire stack seamlessly. Since it's a VCF, time to market is what is important. We want to make sure that bring up process to bring up the environment quickly based on automation is what is required. You as a provider or you as a customer want to make sure that you are able to deliver required compute storage back to your business as quickly as possible. So that's time to market. Again, you start small with 3 hosts, but it doesn't stop you scaling out. You can add a host by host and grow as per your requirement. So your CapEx and OpEx are optimized. You start small and then you add a host as you need a capacity demands for your business to grow. And definitely, it's a dedicated private cloud experience for your customer. The 3 hosts or additional hosts that you are making and scalability into the environment becomes dedicated private cloud for your customer. And again, when you are doing that, you are meeting your ESG goal as well. If you are VP of IT or if you are VP of your company, kind of trying to prove the ESG numbers, this is the way that you can start small and adhere to your ESG goals and compliances as well. So, from a recommendations point of view, as I said, Bring Up is a process which will build the entire stack. It is based on Cloud Builder. Most of the providers that I have seen, they will use automation, maybe an Ansible, maybe Terraform. That kind of calls all the Cloud Builder APIs. But if you wanted to start with a smaller footprint and you don't have time to do the automation, you can still use graphical user interface and then basically complete the process of bring up based on automation. While performing an upgrade, we want to make sure that you really understand while you are performing the lifecycle automation tasks, especially for vSphere or NSX, transport node upgrades, the server will be rebooted. So if you have 3 hosts and if one server is rebooted, you are running innovate 2 hosts. Do you have enough capacity? So what our recommendation is to make sure that to avoid any downtime, you definitely add a swing host. So swing host is a temporary host added, so it becomes 4 hosts, so that when the server number 1, 2, 3 are being rebooted one after other, there is still capacity and no downtime to your customer's workload is maintained to deliver your SLAs actually. Again, swing capacity, as I said, when you are looking at the swing capacity, make sure that you have your host of equal or larger capacity so that your vSAN, where it rebalances as a cluster, it rebalances really well and it doesn't have any issues with your customer workloads, right? And availability, we want to make sure that before you perform lifecycle automation tasks, we strongly recommend to take a backup. Could be an image level backup or could be a file level backup to avoid any data loss. Again, sometimes things do go wrong in terms of having some NIC driver problem or whatever it is, right? So to avoid that, take a backup before you start any of this lifecycle automation process so that your customer workloads are and the data is protected. So out of scope, from this testing when we did it, we want to make sure that we minimize the third-party products or additional VMware solutions in this small architecture. So definitely, we realize suite of products like Network Insight, automation, VMware Tanzu, which requires edge type of clusters to be deployed. All those things were out of the scope. But again, depending on the host capacity, you may be eligible to deploy this and still be able to do right justice for your customers' workload without any issues. So these are the things that we were not able to test because we had limited resources, and we want to make sure that we give that guidance to you, right? How do we do it, right? So the steps are involved like in a 3 host configuration. Cloud Builder is an automation tool used to deploy the bring up process or complete the bring up process. As a part of that, some files where you will go and edit it, restart your VCF bring up process, and then basically execute it, and it will bring up your entire SDD stack with the 3 hosts. It won't complain that I'm missing a host or something like that. So we are making sure that with this setup, the bring up process will finish with 3 hosts. And then, while you are performing lifecycle automation, this process is well documented in the VMware Cloud Foundation documentation as well. But want to make sure that you understand that if you are adding a swing host as a temporary host, you don't want to touch it. You don't want to upgrade that host because that is temporarily there. That way you can minimize your overall lifecycle automation process as well. Because after the LCM work is done across all the 3 hosts, you are going to go and decommission this host and it's going to go to your pool, right? So that's why we are recommending you to skip this host. So LCM process will ignore that host and will not perform any upgrades, maybe an ESXi host upgrade or maybe NSX upgrade seamlessly. And with that said, I think if you have a question, definitely I'm here. I would be happy to answer. But this gives you an ability to start small and grow. It's a kind of land and expand type of capability with your customers. And also utilize the automations delivered by VMware Cloud Foundation. And as you probably have seen yesterday, like, private AI foundation, this becomes a part of that process. So you start with this foundation and then scale up and go into the next level of AI ML type of workloads that you can run on this platform. With that said, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time.